So I would take this trip on like I think it was like a Thursday. So I had to be at the housing place Thursday at by 8 a.m. to fill out the application or whatnot. And so the first time I went, my timing was off because I'm traveling like 3.5 hours to get to this location. So I get there late and it's like, okay. They're like, oh, just come again next Thursday when we do it. I'm like, okay. So I do it again. I go up there next Thursday and once again, it's like traffic pushed back. So then I'm a little bit late. I'm just like, okay. At this point, I'm like, I'm losing hope. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm driving all this way. I'm losing all this gas. I'm not working at the moment. So what am I doing? Okay, so I had support with me then. Like I had my grandmother with me, I had my older cousins with me, support me to travel to these places, you know. Um, the third time I went up there, it always 3 times is try. 3 times is charm. So the third time I went up there, I was able to get seen by the people. I filled out my application, turned in all my documents, and then now it's a waiting game. It was a completion. Like I finally felt like I was on the road to something, like moving forward. Once I came back down to the city where I reside, I had wound up having to put oil in my car. It's so crazy because God worked in mysterious ways. Like it's like when they say nothing happens coincidentally, nothing happens coincidentally. I had to put oil in my car, and my grandmother, she called her son, and she was like, okay, we can go over there and he can put the oil in there before we go on the trip. And I was like, okay, cool. So he put the oil in the car. He put the oil in the car. I connected with another cousin of mine. So this cousin, she's very spiritual or whatever, and she's already on her journey. So it was good. She yelled out the window. She called my name, and I was like, okay, let me go up there, say hi to her. And then it was like her crystals, one of her crystals I noticed. And I was like, oh, okay, I wear crystals too. And so that started a conversation, and it allowed me to open up to her as to what was going on in my life at this time or whatever. And what was going on was I was displaced. I lost everything, and I didn't know how I was going to gain it back. And how I was going to get my kids back. So she told me, she was like, okay, look, I need you to come to my work tomorrow at like 3 o'clock. My manager gonna meet with you, and we're gonna see what we can do to help you out. And I was like, okay. So I'm coming back from out of town, which is 3 hours. When I say out of town, I'm coming back from out of town, and I'm like, oh, I gotta make it before they close, because this was another night. I was gonna have to figure out where I was gonna lay at. So I made it back just in time. Whew. She stayed behind work for me, which was like, I really appreciate her for doing this. And I filled out the application. I talked to her manager, which is a pastor. He talked to me, asked me what I needed, and then they prayed for me. So they prayed for me. Prayer really worked. Prayer is the power of the tongue. It really works. So the next day, it was like a Friday, my cousin called me back, and she was like, hey, I got some good news. And I was like, what's the good news? She was like, come get your key. So I have a key to your room. I immediately broke down because I'm just like, this can't be real. Like, this can't be true. Like, I was just here and there, and then traveling here and there, and then now it's like, I got me a room. I was so happy for my room because I had a door. I can close my door. I can be in my own space, in my own peace. I can breathe. I can breathe. I stayed there for like, I want to say 2 months. I stayed there 2 months. At this time, during this 2 months, I was backtracking. I got into a situationship with this guy that I had met, and it was just like it was good at first. It was good at first, and that's how things started out. They started out good at first until you awaken and you're like, oh, something's not right. I'm not supposed to be doing this. I need to go back. I need to either go back, start over, or I need to do something different. And my doing something different was I needed to separate myself from this person. So it took me like 2 months. I actually I lost out with that person. So it's like a connection that I had. It's like you meet people, you come across people, and you learn them as you be in their energy. So I lost out on that because I was like, I thought I could use him to help me get a place. And that's exactly what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say use him, not like use him in a sense to like really use him, but to use him as in a helping way, because it didn't work for me. It didn't work in my favor. So I was thinking like, okay, well, someone's gonna help me. Let's see if it worked out this way. It did work. There was an approval for apartments, so I began to see things that I wanted to do work through somebody else, and that's how God will work too. God will work like that too. So I'm like, okay, apply for this job. Apply for the job, you get the job. Apply for this apartment or this house. Apply for an apartment. Apply for the house, get approved. I'm like, oh my gosh, this stuff is really working. Okay, so we got into the apartment in like July. I was literally there for like 3 weeks. And guess what? I left. I had to leave again because it just wasn't the right space for me. It wasn't my time yet. It wasn't my time to be in my space, or at least it wasn't my time to be in my space with my kids and then that extra person that God didn't have in my plan for me to be around. So I left. Me leaving, I had no car because remember I told y'all going back, I lost everything. So I'm gonna say 3 days before I left, I got a call from my aunt, and she was like, hey, I'm renting out my car. I just got me another vehicle. You wanna, rent it out? I know you got the kids and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And so I didn't tell the guy of, the move, because I was still processing it in my head.